All right, this is episode number 43 of the podcast. I'm Steven Serskin. Thanks for joining me. On this episode, I have fellow expat Alyssa Brown joining me to talk about her life here in China and some of the things that she's learned over the past few years, particularly as she is about to celebrate her 5th anniversary in the country. Alyssa is an English teacher and a small business owner here in Beijing. She's the owner of Brownie Bites, a business that she runs in her spare time when she's not teaching. She's known for her baked goods, many of which you can't find very easily here in the country. In this episode, we talk a little bit about what it's been like to run a business while working a full-time job, and some of the things that she's learned from the experience, and also what she's learned in general about China, the language, and the people in her time here. This episode was recorded on Sunday, November 26th, 2023, and does have one or two places where the audio stutters a little bit due to a poor internet connection. I think the message still gets through. And with that, let's get to episode number 43 with Alyssa Brown of Brownie Bites. Plot test for the go, and we are live. We are not live, but for sure, episode number 43. I have Alyssa Brown, away from, I guess, across side of Beijing. You're in the north side, aren't you? You're up in you're northern Shaoyang, aren't you?
Like towards Wangjing area.
Wangjing. Okay, so how's the? Are there a lot of Koreans there or not? That's sort of like the Korean little
Yes.
Korea, isn't it?
Yes. I'm not complaining. I love it.
Yeah. What's so what's how, is there a lot of Korean like writing and everything, or is it just Korean restaurants? Like I don't think I've been to Wangjing in a very long time.
No, surprisingly, there is no Korean writing that I've seen so far, but there are a lot of like small Korean bakeries and restaurants.
Yeah. How often do you eat Korean versus Chinese food?
More than I care to divulge. I want to say I have Korean maybe 3 times a week.
Right. What's your go-to Korean food?
Oh, I'm going to butcher how to say it completely, but I love the tteokbokki. So I'll do
Okay.
like it's like a spicy tteokbokki dish with ramen and like fish cakes.
Yeah. All right. What about Chinese food? What do you do for Chinese food typically?
Cook at home.
Oh, really?
Actually, I don't do much Chinese takeout. Yeah, I like to cook it, so I'm a big fan of anything sweet and sour.
Yeah. That's good. But so your big claim to fame is, I mean, you are cooking and baking and everything. I think we met. I cannot remember how I got your contact information. To tell you the truth, it was a while ago. Were you part of one of these groups in Beijing? The bake? It's not the baking group.
I
This
want to say you found me through like the sweets group. Is that what they're called?
Sweet Cravings or something. Yeah, I can't remember it, but
Yeah,
there's
sweet cravings.
okay.
Yes.
So there's like three or four of them, and I remember your name came up because you're Beijing based, which meant that the orders could get here quicker. And
Yes.
you were also active throughout the pandemic, right? I think because this is 2 or 3 years ago. I think we've been talking.
Yes.
And as I
It's
mentioned
been a minute. Yeah.
in the preamble, it was every. I think there's 100% correlation between me talking to you and the scale going up in the numbers, basically. So that's not your fault. That's mine. All mine.
Oh no,
Uh,
I'm not sorry.
so you are the baker par excellence. You've mastered, or at least are on the way to master. Do you have the Starbucks cookbook? Because it seems your claim to fame is scones, vanilla scones, and pumpkin scones.
Yeah.
Where did you
Um,
get this idea from?
Honestly, Pinterest is a person's best friend.
Yeah.
I found the recipes on Pinterest, God knows how long ago, and I made them a few times and fed them to colleagues before adding my own personal touches.
Right. What's your personal touch to the
Yeah.
scones? Because I mean, these are very much like the vanilla bean scones that you can find in North America at Starbucks, right?
Yes, yes, that was the inspiration. The initial recipe only called for vanilla extract, and then you could use like vanilla bean paste in the frosting. But I decided just to use vanilla bean paste through and through, and then in the frosting, I like to do hand scraped vanilla beans. I don't know if it makes a difference, but to me it does. I don't know if it's psychological.
Okay. Hand scraped vanilla beans. So you actually, what does that mean?
I buy vanilla beans in bulk, so I'll split them open through the middle and I'll just scrape the insides out with a little knife into my icing mix.
Ah, so it's like natural. You're using natural
Yeah,
vanilla. Okay.
yeah.
And but the vanilla scones aren't the only ones that you use. You use or the only ones that you do. You do also pumpkin scones. That's a recent addition, or was that you've been doing it all along? You just haven't told anybody.
I started those last year, but those are less of a Pinterest recipe and more from my grandma.
Oh, that's grandma's recipe.
Yes, my grandma's a big baker as well, so we talk baking all the time. My cat's
Yeah.
making a cameo. Excuse
Oh,
me.
good. Hello, cat. That happens
Dumpling.
from time to time. How did you get into baking? So, was your grandma the inspiration, or is this run in your family that you're a baker or a cook? I guess those are not the same thing, are they?
Um,
I should be very careful about this.
I guess it runs in my family, but it more so actually started as like a channel for my stress when I was in grad school. So when I
Okay.
was getting my master's degree, I would always take a day a week to find a new recipe on Pinterest and just bake it. And then I had a part-time job at the time, so I would just bring whatever I made into work and feed my colleagues. And
Mhm.
it started as that, and I guess I kind of kept it. So it's been about a decade since then, and yeah.
What was your master's in that was giving you such stress?
English literature.
Oh, the best. Classic, classic. And that brought you over to Beijing as well, or what was the sequence of events there?
Oh, okay. So what brought me to Beijing, China? So it was actually an internship opportunity that I had my sophomore year of college. And the internship itself was in Chengdu. It was like a partnership through the YWCA.
Mhm.
And initially it was a love with Chinese food, but then it like became more and I fell in love with the culture and the people. And I was like, well, you know what? When I graduate college, I'm gonna come back to China somehow. And yeah, here I am. I'm going on my fifth year here, so
Fifth
I
year.
kept true to
Okay.
my word.
Ah, so
Yes,
that's
she
and
must be
so that was
hungry.
2019 or 2018 you came over.
I came in 2019, literally 3 weeks before
Before
lockdown.
before the
Yeah.
grand pandemic that all made us question what we were
Ooh,
doing. So then that means you got here like
goodness,
in
yes.
December or what? This is so it's happy fifth anniversary basically in December.
Yes,
Oh
yes.
well, there you
Yeah,
go.
literally like December 8th, I think, is the anniversary.
Wow. And you landed in Chengdu or you landed in Beijing? Where did you
I
come from?
landed in Beijing. My Chengdu adventures again were, oh gosh, longer than I about 10 years ago now.
Oh wow.
Um,
Okay.
so I spent 3 months there, and then after I got my master's, I came here.
Yeah. All right. And so only 3 months in Chengdu. And this was completing your master's, or was it sort of like finishing off, or was it starting, or how does that work?
It was an internship that I was using to get credits to get my associate's degree at the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Why would you? I'm
They
sorry.
heard that I was.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. They heard that I was interested in pursuing maybe education abroad.
Hmm.
So they approached me and they're like, well, there's an internship you can try to apply for. Maybe you should give it a go. So I did.
Oh, that's neat. And China was your first choice, or not your first choice? What was sort of on the selection list?
Actually, Italy was my top pick, but when they approached me and they're like, "Sorry, that's already been filled, but if you want, you can try for China." And my first thought was, "Well, I really love Chinese food, so I'll give it a go." Um, I'm a very food-oriented person.
Well, you fit in here. I've been told that I think China and its people are very food-oriented people. For whatever reason, it seems to be like the thing that they sort of cling on to. How's the food? And they always take food back with them whenever they travel. It's always they're taking something back from traveling. Uh,
Yes.
but you like Chinese food, so I don't know where you're from. I'm going to guess the United States, some part of it, but I'm not sure.
I am. Yes, I'm from close to Buffalo.
Buffalo. Okay. The only thing I know about Buffalo is the Buffalo Sabres, your NHL team.
Oh, buffalo saber. Yeah, yeah, yes.
Are they still
Niagara Falls,
around?
buffalo sabers.
Oh goodness.
Your guess is as good as mine, honestly.
Oh geez, that's terrible. I should have researched this before. I didn't know. I know a lot of people who follow the NHL, but I don't think I've watched a game in a very long time. My team's the Winnipeg Jets. We lost our team back in 1996, 97. And then they came back in 2010 or 2011, somewhere around there. So, but Buffalo has always had their team, right? Haven't they? It's been a continuous tradition.
Yes, yes,
Oh, that's good. Buffalo to
yes.
China. So was China, this is your first sort of experience living overseas, or had you lived somewhere else before? I mean, choice between Italy and China. Oof. Oh, wow.
I know. This is the first place where I've lived abroad, and I've
Okay.
loved it so much I've stayed.
What was so you said that the Chinese food was what you were like, wow, this is so great. I have to move to the country. What was the Chinese food in Buffalo like that we were like, okay, let's have a go with this.
Oh gosh, I feel so terrible saying this because like Chinese food in Buffalo, New York is not a testament to the like Chinese food that we're eating here now. I really liked the crab rangoons, like cream cheese, imitation crab, dipped in like a sweet and sour sauce, or like
Right.
their variation of a mapo tofu. But their mapo tofu was like super sweet and it definitely more for an American palate. So I came here, that was a big shock.
Yeah. So, have you found something similar here in China, or is it like, can you go back to Buffalo and eat Chinese food there anymore?
The honest answer is no. I mean, maybe for the crab rangoon because I haven't found anything like that since. I can't even call that Chinese food. There is a restaurant that opened in Beijing not too long ago, I think, that makes like American style Chinese food. I haven't tried it myself.
I've heard of it, but it's way out. Well, it's closer to you, I think, but I think it was way out there in not Langfang, was it? It was somewhere, it was far away from where I'm living. And I was like, it's not, I can't do that. I can't justify the time.
I wouldn't, don't. Yeah, I haven't been.
Okay. So anything else about Buffalo Chinese food? Like, because I know, what was it? Is it lemon chicken? The thing is, though, about expat, I call it expat Chinese food now because basically it is when Chinese people move away from China and they relocate, they emigrate to another country, they become expats. And so they take that and they make it into whatever else. I can't remember if there's a documentary or something was done with the Canadian railway workers about how they contributed to the invention of Chinese food in North America. I can't remember. I'll have to find a documentary. But the Chinese food in
Please
North
do.
America, the Chinese food in North America is like sort of a distinct sort of evolution of what you would consider Chinese food, basically. So I don't know. When I came to China, people were like, lemon chicken's not real Chinese food. What else? There was some sweet and sour like chicken balls and stuff like that. They're like, that's not Chinese food. Depends where
Oh,
you go in China,
yes.
though, right? I mean, because Beijing cuisine is very different from like Shenzhen, Hong Kong, Shanghai cuisine. Very different.
Exactly. That was my thought. I was thinking maybe the Chinese food in America sound more on the people that came from in China. I know a lot of the immigrants lived in America from like Fujian,
Hmm.
and I've never been to Fujian myself, but maybe the flavor profiles of Chinese food is sweeter and just carry that with them.
Mm, right. Have you traveled much throughout China? So the audio was a bit clipped there, but so you're saying that the Chinese food in the United States is what? Sorry.
A lot of the people that make it are from Fujian, so maybe they
Right.
just take a lot of styles from their hometowns.
Yes. Yeah. 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 And I think is that Beijing is renowned for having a greasier cuisine compared to other parts of China. I think.
Yeah, I can attest to that. Yes. But it's
The
delicious. It's so good. It's like a guilty pleasure.
what what's a so what would be like a unique Beijing dish? Like when if your family were to come and visit you, because I mean they haven't had the chance over the last
Hmm.
4 years, 5 years. But what would be the first dish that you take them to go see or take eat try?
I feel so basic for saying this, but I feel like to give them more options because some of them are picky eaters, I would do hot pot. It's safe.
Yeah.
because they can choose what they put in the broth and you can choose the spice levels. But there's also another dish. I'm going to butcher the pronunciation completely. Liangpi,
Okay.
like the snow skin noodles that come with the diced cucumbers and the sesame paste and
Yeah.
tofu or gluten. I would start with those.
Right. Okay. If my family ever eventually visited me, I think the first thing I'd take them is breakfast, baozi and youtiao. I think that'd be my first go-to.
Oh, how did I not think of that? Like, I love bao so much. I literally named my cat bao.
Yeah.
Oh,
Let's see if this works. All right. So the
youtiao.
audio
Do
is
you do
clipping
your
there again.
youtiao in?
The audio
Oh
is not doing so
no.
well. It's just 1 second here. I'm not sure if it's mine or yours. Try this. Mm. No, break that. I know. All right, we'll try that. See if that works. Sorry. All right. So yeah. Anyway, the Beijing breakfast would be sort of my first go-to. The baozi, the youtiao. I find the baozi with the was it the uh, forgetting it, vinegar and that hot sauce, that spice that they put in. Fantastic.
Yes. Yes. Wow, you sound like a real Beijinger.
Been here for 9 years, 10 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I
Let's
know.
see.
It's
When you have your youtiao, do you dip your youtiao in soy milk, hot soy milk?
sometimes if I'm very thirsty or hungover, yeah, typically I will. But it's usually pretty common. Like it's two eggs, youtiao, doujiang, soy milk, baozi, and then that's it basically. But that will fill me up, and I'm pretty much full for
Oh,
the rest of the day. So that I don't eat that very often. Some Chinese people have been known to point out that that breakfast is full of carbs and fats that are basically unhealthy for you. And I'm like, it's traditional Chinese food, which people say is very healthy for you.
it's good for the soul. It feeds the soul.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
I'll still
Jianbing
buy it.
too. Yes.
Yes, for sure. Jianbing, another guilty pleasure. Kowloon mian as well.
Oh, wow. You really are a local. I'm impressed.
So you've been here for 5 years and you started in Chengdu many years ago. Chengdu to Beijing. What was the first thing you remember doing when you came to China? Like when you first came to China and then when you first came to Beijing?
Learning how to use chopsticks
Okay.
and eating hot pot.
Yeah.
Yes, that's all I like vividly remember from when I came here the very first time. And then I did volunteer work at an orphanage. So the man that ran the orphanage would sit down with me and my classmate at the time, and he would try to teach us like basic Chinese phrases because obviously at that point I didn't even know what ni hao meant.
Right.
So that those are the two things I vividly remember, like and home hot pot, and attempt at learning Chinese.
Okay. How has your Chinese improved over the last 5 years, 10 years?
That's a loaded question. I want
Define.
to say yes. I want like define developed.
Gotten better. Can you hold a
I
conversation in Chinese?
okay, so I can pick up the phone and deliver man calls, and I can tell him where I live. I can go to the grocery store by myself. So if
Right.
that counts, then we're.
Um,
I guess I would say, technically speaking, I'm like HSK4 young, but
okay. No, yeah.
I
So,
consider myself like HSK3.
right. Yeah. I think we
How
all
about
kind of.
you? Have you taken the HSK?
I failed the HSK5 test 2 years ago. Last year, it was the middle of last year I took it, so it's a year and a half ago that I tried it. I've since given up on pursuing HSK. I have the books. I stopped doing them, and I just moved on to the HSK6 vocabulary. And my most recent addition to my library is actually a bunch of children's books. I bought them for like 10 kwai. I bought like a stack of them. And so I've been reading kids' books. And I'm like, that's an HSK6 character you have in that kid's book. And so my reading level is basically not even grade 2 Chinese.
Goodness, even being like HSK4, HSK5, my I remember a teacher told me, "Hey, why don't you try watching a pig in Chinese? Maybe that will help you with your HSK5 vocabulary."
It could.
Okay, so I have the vernacular of like, yeah,
Yeah, it can help if you stay interested in it. If you don't stay interested, then it's like you're watching kids shows and you're like, this, how is this helping me in life?
honestly, I want to say the best teachers that have had my Chinese the most were my 3 and 4 year old students because I taught at kindergarten for a time. And
Right.
they don't speak any English, so I have to learn so I can communicate these basic concepts in English to them. So they've been the best teachers. The motivation is there. I think for me, I just don't budget my time well enough to include baking and then job and then Chinese studies. It's a
Right.
process.
Do you mark out time to study Chinese every day, or is it just whenever you feel like it?
I used to every day. Now it's more like when I'm not tired, when I feel like it. Yeah.
Right. How often is that? Per week, per month? I know it's tough. It's not an easy language.
Okay, it's been like 6 months. I'm
Oh,
just going to
snap.
be honest.
Oh, geez.
I know.
The
But I do, the motivation is there because my boyfriend's family, my boyfriend's Chinese and his
okay.
family, they don't speak English. So I have the motivation to learn because obviously I want to know that part of his life and I
Yeah.
want to know his family. Just need to learn how to budget my time, I guess, a bit better.
Hmm. But you and your boyfriend, you communicate in English, or I'm guessing it's English, not so much in Chinese. If you're just K4. No, no
Definitely.
offense.
He'll say some, no, all good, no offense taken. He'll try to say some things to me in Chinese, but they're like old Chinese metaphors. So I'll just look at him and be like, why did I start learning to begin with? I didn't get a single word of that.
My harsh
Yeah.
reality check with my girlfriend was that whenever she speaks, first of all, she speaks very fast, and usually when she's angry with me. And second, she uses very large vocabulary that is also when she's angry at me. I'm going, I need to find a teacher who just gets angry at me, and that way I can learn that, and that we can replay and analyze that vocabulary. So it's like there are some words like the idioms that will come up. She'll say them, and I'm like, I think other men and foreigners need to know these words so that it's a flag when their partner says these things. You know that they're very upset with you in a very subtle way.
Taking the HSK6 though, that's something you need to be more aware of, isn't it? I'm not 100% sure because I've never studied that high up. But I was told for HSK6 and up because I know they're changing the system. You have to be aware of like different metaphors, idioms.
Yeah, I'm doing the old system. I just decided to stick with the old books. I don't care to go through the 789, HSK 789. That's more like if you're going to specialize in something. I just decided to go with the old books for now. Yes, idioms do pop up or are much more frequent at HSK 6.
Ooh,
But
oof.
with that, I have found like I use Anki Droid every morning and I do flashcards. So I'm just doing characters, which is it's so bizarre. A language for 6 years. It's like a Chinese kid trying to still learn the 26 letters of the alphabet after 6 years of studying. You're going 26 letters, you can pick them up pretty quickly, I think. Chinese, 5,000 characters, still learning at 8, 9 years on. It's that's a defeat in motivation.
I try not to think about it to keep myself motivated to learn, honestly.
Yeah. No, you can't. You really do just sort of have to learn. This is what I'm going to do. A couple words every day. Read the read the notices outside your elevator and stuff like that. Practice when you can, and it builds up over time. Very slowly, very slowly. I can say.
Honestly, though, props to you for using Anki. I used it for the longest time, and I wish I was using it more. I was between Anki and another app called Super Test, but you have to pay for that, I
Yeah,
think. And it's really good with the old HSK system. Anki, however, like, love how you can customize flashcards.
yeah. That's good. Very, very useful. Are you studying Chinese formally? I guess it's been 6 months since you touched the language last, but or sort of studying it anyway. Do you have teachers? Did you go the formal route to learn a language at all, or you just kind of winging it?
I had 2 years.
Okay.
So I would see a tutor once or twice a week, depending on my schedule. But that was about as formal as it got. The classes, they would be like an hour. We'd meet at a coffee shop, and we use the old HSK books as our base. Like it would be like 15 minutes of free talk, a half hour of book, and then maybe like 10 or 15 minutes of writing.
Okay. All right. That's writing. So you're doing writing as well, just practicing characters, or are you actually composing sentences and essays?
Characters. They would start with a radical, and then using that radical, they would give me like 3 or 4 characters and that radical.
Right. Okay. That helps though. I mean, did you find how was it when you were learning to write the Chinese characters? Did that affect how you learned the language in general as well?
Um, it helped me to better piece the meaning of a character based on the context. Maybe I can't find the exact meaning of the sentence, but if I know the radicals, then I can kind of guess like the gist of what's going on. And
Okay.
that's been pretty efficient so far. So yeah.
All right. And do you like studying Chinese? Is this something like is it a chore for you, or do you find it's like actually, it's part and parcel of being in the country? Is it something enjoyable?
I love it. I mean, part of the reason I came back, I know I said food, but language infuriated me so much, but in like a good way. It's so annoying. I don't know what's going on. I need to come back. I can learn. Um, yeah. I mean, it's a double-edged sword because now I feel like that I'm more aware of what's going on. I get kind of like annoyed easy. Like, I really don't want to know what you're saying right now. I kind of wish I could do this out.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What would you say has been the easiest and the hardest thing about picking up the Chinese language, given that you've experienced it both in Chengdu and in Beijing?
Like the easiest part in learning Chinese, like the easiest thing to pick up?
Sure, yeah. Ni hao.
I think the easiest for me personally is just learning vocabulary by itself. Like I can memorize a word and repeat it back to you, but then applying that vocabulary and using it with the grammar, because Chinese grammar is a lot different from the grammar rules that I grew up with. So that's been the hardest part. Well, I guess that's a tie with the tones though, right? The tones, they're tricky.
I don't know. I think most of my tones are off. I don't care anymore. And my suspicion is that a lot of times it's based on context.
Yes, I was just about to say, yeah, it's context. As long as they know what you're talking about in terms of like the subject, okay, they'll piece it together.
I've kind of wanted to do this at some point. I'm not sure if I would TikTok this, but I wanted to just walk up to a Chinese person and say a word, record the reaction, and see if they like translate this word. Say a word, translate, right? And like, what would the reaction be? Which would be, it's a terrible way because I mean, any word can have any. Oh, I have no idea what the equivalent would be in English if someone just walked up to me and said enough, and I'd be like, what?
Please make a mini series. I will subscribe.
I don't know if I'm brave enough to do that, just because it'd be like, there's this foreigner arrested for disturbing public order, asking people to translate words. I don't know. What's what the Chinese grammars? I agree, difficult. What has been your encounter with the Chinese grammar?
My encounter with the Chinese grammar. Again, another loaded question. I don't know if I can answer that question specifically, but I can give an example, like the word "dui," for example, using that in like in the different contexts in which you use it, or what's the other word, ba, knowing how to use that because it has 3 or 4 different meanings that change depending how you structured your sentence. So knowing those words and knowing which kinds of contexts and sentences I need to use them in, because if I don't use them, then the meaning of the sentence like changes completely. That's been incredibly difficult. What about yourself? What have you found is the hardest parts about learning Chinese in terms of grammar? I mean, we've already talked about tones, so.
All of it. It's all just been very difficult. It's been a very trying language.
So hard.
Again, going back to it's 6 years, 9 years, and I'm still learning the alphabet. Basically, it's that to me makes me laugh and kind of go, is there? I guess my big question now these days is, would I be willing to do the same that I've done for China and Chinese in another country? Like, would I be able to relocate to another part of the world? And I just go, I'm too old. I'm too old for that. Still young, but it's a challenge because it's been so long, and even with that, a lot of times, this is an old lady down the block, and she likes to stop and talk every now and then. She has this accent that I can kind of understand, but every time I just stumble on understanding something that she says. She's like, "Your Chinese is so bad." Like, lady, this is not very encouraging. You're a bad encouraging people. I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Good golly gosh. And if she's an old Beijinger, I've gotten that from one of my old neighbors as well, where he asked me how long I'd lived here. And I was like, at that point, I think I had been in China for 2 years. Right. And I said 2 years. And he said he couldn't even understand me when I said 2 years. And he's like, this is not good. You're in China. You need to learn Chinese.
And where's that old neighbor now?
Woof. This is back when I've lived in a lot of districts. This is in Xicheng district.
Okay. Yeah, it's I don't know. Sometimes I kind of don't mind talking to older Chinese people because they have the time. The younger people just switch to English. Like they're not going to put up with my bad Chinese, basically. So, but the supermarket, any of the elders around the compound, and I've, since the pandemic, gotten to know quite a few of them because I don't go anywhere. So I talked to them quite a bit. You've lived in a few different parts of Beijing. I didn't know that. So tell me, how's Beijing from the different views, east, west, north, south?
I've lived in Chaoyang, Dongcheng, Xicheng, and Haidian. And I want to say Haidian, like that's west. So that's had the best views in terms of like hiking. Like I was exposed to the most nature and greenery out there because I was living close to, how do you say it, Xiangshan, like fragrant hills.
Yeah.
So I lived pretty close to there. Dongcheng was really good because, Sanlituan's a 10-minute walk away, and then you've got the Hutongs that are a 10-minute walk away. So that blend of industrialization versus like traditional, like Beijing, being so close and intermingling with each other like that I think that's my favorite district to live in. Mm-hmm. Chaoyang is just massive. So I really think it depends where you live in Chaoyang. My experience where I live now is awesome because I'm not too far from the art district. So that's a big pro, I think, of living in Chaoyang now.
Yeah.
And then there's Tongzhou in the east. There wasn't really much going on out there.
Dead. I mean,
it was at the time. It was. I heard it's been developing pretty quickly as of recently, but I wouldn't know.
They moved part of the government out there too. There's the Tongzhou. I think the municipal government has moved out to Tongzhou, and the provincial government has moved down by Daxing or something like that. They moved them out of the city proper. Yeah, that's why Tongzhou is partially developing. I've never. How long did you live in Tongzhou for?
Literally 6 months.
Oh wow! How come you're bouncing around so much?
Different jobs in different parts of Beijing, because one of my biggest priorities with work is I need to live within 5 kilometers of that job. It's just a requirement of mine.
Right. Just so you can walk there, bike there, run there.
Yeah, I like the versatility. If I could walk there, I'll walk. I could bike, taxi. I like having the variety and the choice, and not having to wake up at 5 a.m. just to make it to work on time.
Right. Yeah, that's not fun. I've been there, man. It's not fun. You're teaching kids, I'm guessing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What
I'm
age?
A 3rd grade homeroom teacher.
Oh, okay, there you go. And so how come you've been bouncing around so much? Did the pandemic influence or affect your employment? Like, did schools go out of business sort of thing, or what happened?
Oh, goodness. I think the pandemic played a huge role in my job history in the last couple of years, especially because I actually had an office job for a period of time. I came to China as a training school teacher, but then I transitioned into an office job where I was like a script writer, where I helped make scripts that were filmed for different educational institutions around China.
That's neat.
That, however, was really cool. However, they stopped doing that because during the pandemic, like training schools, there's a huge crackdown on those. So that went out of business. Worked at a kindergarten, realized I love this age group. They are so cute, but perhaps not for me. And yes, now I'm working with third graders.
Okay. So how long have you been with your current employment, your current grade 3 teaching?
I just started this year, actually. So August. Super new.
Yeah. How's the school? You don't have to give names or anything, but good environment, good people.
It's incredible. Yeah, it's a genuinely supportive environment where they foster the growth of not just the kids, but also the teachers. And I really appreciate that.
What do you mean by foster the growth? That sounds like forced training.
No, they care a lot about the children's and the teachers and the students' well-being. So there are frequent check-ins to make sure that everyone is healthy and doing okay academically. There's frequent communication between the parents just to make sure everything's going well at home. And it doesn't feel forced. It's very like organic communication.
Right. What job were you out with in Tongzhou? That must have been the script writing job.
Actually, the script writing job was in Haidian, where you find a lot of like the different colleges. Yeah. Tongzhou, it was far from work. That was when I was working at a training center. So it was just like along line 6 though. So it was super convenient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I briefly flirted with the idea of going to live in Tongzhou, and I did a reconnaissance mission. And I remember thinking on both ways on the subway, I'm like, am I there yet? And I wasn't. You just had to keep on going. Nope, not doing it. I don't care how much money I would save. I can't do it. It's just too far.
I was about to say, it really depends on your priorities with living and work. Like, are you trying to save money or are you trying to be close to your job? You have to choose because you oftentimes can't get both.
I work from home now, so I'm as close to my job as I possibly can. This is my podcast setup here. My work setup is literally right over there on my table. I have a box. Like my work is basically a laptop, and that's it. So it's stashed over there. So and if I'd moved to Tongzhou, I'd have a bigger apartment, cheaper rent. But then it's like I couldn't get delivery from like half of the places in Beijing, and I'm not sure. The one thing that keeps me on my compound is that I have a nice place to run, and it's a good setup. So it's not like a track, but it's kind of like a track sort of thing. And it's a mindless jog. I don't have to think of it. I know the area. I almost know the times when people are in and out and stuff like that. So yeah, it's very sort of well-oiled, very well known, basically. So that's why I kind of stay where I am. So you bounced around Beijing quite a bit. How has it been to work in Beijing, like especially since the pandemic? Were you working from home at all, or did you have to work online?
I did have to work online. It's been a mix. Last year there were 2 periods for about 2 or 3 months each where I was working online. The workload was definitely quite intense because everybody was going through this huge transition where last minute we all had to start working from home, but we don't know how. Right. So I want to say the last 1, even 2 years have been incredibly difficult in that respect. But yeah, just like you, I worked from home for probably a year and a half in total, because before that, like when the pandemic had first started, I worked for 2 weeks and they're like, okay, you're going to work from home now. Okay. So for the remainder of that job, I taught from home for the rest of that year. Yeah, it's been interesting.
You've moved, like for someone who came here right at the time before the pandemic, you've survived the pandemic and you have lived throughout Beijing. That's impressive.
Oh, impressive. I've never actually really thought of it that way. Thanks, though. I appreciate that.
I think you've lived in more places around Beijing than I've only lived in Haidian and Chaoyang. That's it. So, but again, my work when I first started this job that I have right now, we used to do a lot of work travel and stuff like that. So I wasn't always in Beijing, but that pandemic killed that. that was one casualty. There's no more work trips anymore. So it's we stay at home and just I work from home. But that you were able to transition to all those different jobs and somehow find apartments, remain kind of well, I guess you had jobs, so you had income coming in. Like some people, they lost their jobs and they were gone basically.
The exodus of 2022. Yeah. I think I was incredibly fortunate in that respect, where even though we were going through this this difficult transitionary period, I was still getting paid regularly. So I know in that respect, I am very, very lucky.
Yeah. Have you been able to you've been here for 5 years. Have you established like a friend group that you sort of have, like both foreigners and Chinese, or is it weighted more to one side?
It's weighted more on the Chinese side, just because, life here as an expat, you come here and people don't usually come to stay. So most of the friends that I had have unfortunately left, but that's okay. Again, life as an expat. So a lot of the people I hang out with now are more on the local side.
Okay. In Chinese?
Yeah.
Are you practicing your Chinese with them, or are they practicing their English?
No. They're definitely practicing their English. I'm more than happy to help them with English.
Is this how you met your boyfriend as well? Through this sort of friend circle, this group and everything?
Actually, meeting him was super random. It just happened to be my first summer here, and we were out at the same place at the same time. And he just wanted to keep in touch, and it went from there.
Can I have your WeChat? It's how it all starts these days, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yes.
So you saw a lot of your foreigner expat friends. They all left, or a lot of them did leave. Where did they go? Did they go to another country, or did they go back to the US, or where?
They went home.
Okay.
All of them went home, whether that was back to the UK, America, South Africa, all of them. Yeah, the pandemic was difficult, so they decided to go home to their families.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
I have a lot of colleagues that left. Yeah, I guess they're not colleagues anymore, but I decided to stay because I had nowhere else to go. Why didn't you leave? How come, was there ever an option to like flee China, as I've described it? It's fleeing China.
I had the option, I guess, but I feel like I've really made a life for myself here. I've adopted 2 cats. I have a partner in a healthy relationship and a stable job. Mostly the cats, and I just really like the life that I've made for myself here in Beijing, and I didn't want to lose that. I don't want to lose that.
Right. Yeah, it's a good
about
setup.
You? What keeps you grounded here?
I don't want to move apartments. Like I really pretty much do not. This junk you see, these books, there's 2 Chinese books right there. I bought those many years ago, still haven't read them, but it's things like that. I just don't want to deal with it. And I think, I've all but told my landlord, I'm like, please don't increase the rent, because like, I don't want to move. I don't even want to look for another apartment, but that's basically what it comes down to. Complete laziness. I just do not want to pack apartments.
It's expensive on top of that.
So you're a professional. Do you have a moving company as well?
Yeah.
In conjunction with your baking company?
I mean, for moving, you can use the Zoom has moving services, and there's also, I think it's like Hualala.
Yeah.
Pardon me if I'm butchering, but I use those.
Yeah, I've heard of them. I just don't. No, I don't. The other thing with looking at the stuff that I have here, I kind of go, well, Steve, there's really a couple ways you can deal with this. Number one, you can get a bigger apartment, which means you have to move. Number 2, stop buying stuff. Okay, that's another way. Number 3, stop buying stuff and get rid of the stuff that you're not using. I mean, that would free up a lot of space in the apartment, wouldn't it?
The effort, though.
How big is your apartment? you're not in a studio. See, I'm in a studio apartment, so it's like just for me, basically.
Oh, see, I can't live in a studio because my boyfriend said the stipulation in adopting cats, because he's never lived with animals before. So the one stipulation is you can have cats, but they need their own bedroom.
Right.
So my apartment's maybe 80 square meters.
Okay.
And
So
it's 2-bedroom. Like,
yeah, it's bigger than mine. That's good. You got a place to spin around at least. And place for your cats as well.
Yeah, for me, it was the kitchen space. Yes.
Yeah.
Cats and kitchen.
Yeah. Why did you adopt 2 kittens? Was this like a pandemic sort of thing?
I've always wanted a pet. And at the time, I thought adopting cats would be easier in terms of transport than dogs. Like, I thought if I moved internationally or back to America, they would be cheaper to travel with. And I'm in some female expat groups where they were sending contact cards for different people that have animal rescue groups. Right. I added one of them, and she just kept posting poster after poster after poster. I didn't come to China under the impression I would be adopting, but it's just like, how many posters can you look at before you're like, I need this animal now? So I fell in love with the one kitten because he reminded me of my kitten, my childhood growing up. Oh. Then I was like, but cats get lonely too. ¿Por qué no los dos? So I adopted another kitten a month later. You can judge me. It's fine. I know. But yeah, it's been good. They're the same age, so they get along well.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I've had people ask me if I want to adopt a dog. I'm like, not a chance. Not going to happen. If it stays over in your apartment, I'll adopt the dog. I'll send it food every now and then, but I'm not taking it for a walk.
Yeah, dogs are a bit higher maintenance than cats. In my opinion, they're so cute and they're worth it, but they are much higher maintenance. You have to invest a lot more time and money, I think, into dogs. I've had both.
Yeah, again, a studio apartment, there's no room for it. There's barely room enough here for me. Forget having an animal at all. But so how long have you had these cats for? I mean, has it been a couple of years, or when did you get them?
Literally 3 months into the pandemic, so we're going on 3-4 years now.
Oh wow, okay. Because you said that you were going to take them internationally. It sounded like you were backpacking with these kittens in your backpack or something.
When I was thinking about leaving China, because there was a period in that first year of the pandemic where I was like, I don't know if I can do this. But I'd had the kittens for a few months already.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever get locked down in your apartment, wherever you were at that point?
In the beginning, we were not really locked down, but we were given special cards where if we didn't have the card, they wouldn't let us back into the community. It verified that we lived there. So we had to show the people on the street and then the people that guarded our building.
Right.
Okay. Last year, my community was locked down, I want to say, for about 2 months, maybe 2.5 months.
Right.
And it started as the community being barred up and you can put your hand out to a special gate to get your deliveries. But then about halfway in, they boarded up our buildings. So I was confined to my building for a period there. It was really hard. I couldn't even bake for people. That was the hardest part for me. Right. I couldn't stress bake because baking is my stress coping mechanism. How about you?
I think I got locked down for almost 7 hours. It was terrifying. I actually recorded a podcast that day. Yeah, I know. It was horrible experience of 7 hours. My fortunate life here has been that I live in a very nice area with 2 very well-known schools nearby. And as a result, I think that kept everything basically open. So my compound, when they had that map of all the places shutting down, you could see them, all the red dots, and it was all around.
Yes, I remember.
And my compound was the only one that was still not red. Walk around, do whatever. I mean, that's actually one of the reasons I stayed in this apartment for so long, is because I was able to live a normal life, basically, which has been great. So how did you survive the pandemic then? I imagine people back in the United States were kind of like, get out, you have to leave.
Oh, I can't even tell you how many times my mom called me so is it time yet? Do you need help with a ticket?
Oh, geez.
How did I survive? I mean, I played ping pong every day with the local shoes. because I could still go outside for a period there. So ping pong with the local community members. I still baked. I just made my boyfriend eat it all. So I still did some stress baking and reading. Because like you, I have a huge pile of books that I just haven't touched. They're there and they look nice, but I haven't read them yet. So reading, baking, and ping pong with the uncles.
That's hey, at least you kept it going, and you were employed as well. So you were still working sometimes as well, or was that not on the go at that time?
Yeah, it was a really interesting scenario because the children are so young. You couldn't actually do online classes with them. So I would have phone calls with them every morning where I would send voice notes for maybe an hour straight with them, and they could interact with me if they wanted. And then I would have to film like 2 or 3 minute long videos and send it 3 or 4 times a week. And that was how I worked then.
Wow. That's intense.
It was really fun though. A lot of like creative opportunities. I made fun. It was fun for me. Sorry. Yeah. English.
Why was it fun? I mean, because this is your. Did you go viral TikTok? Did you post these like publicly as well, or was it just for your students?
Oh, it was just for the students. I didn't think to post it on TikTok, but I guess I should have.
New skill set
for them. I just like the fact there was no set curriculum, so I could kind of make things up as I went along. I could choose a subject and roll with that for the week, and I had the freedom to decide like where I wanted to go with that, and that was really enjoyable.
That's good. Did the students respond well to this sort of method of teaching? Because I know in the United States and in Canada, they were sort of saying that the kids are at a huge disadvantage because of the pandemic and how it sort of pushed off certain educational opportunities. Did you see that in your teaching at all? Or, I mean, it sounds like you're just making TikTok videos for kids.
Yeah, actually, it kind of was. Another, you worded that really well. I think with the voice messages, it was okay. But yeah, when I made the videos, their goal was to respond to them somehow, make a video of their own to show me that they're putting it into practice. And maybe out of the 20 students I had, I would get 1 or 2 responses. So wow. I do think that they were put at a huge... No. But they are at a huge disadvantage, and like more screen time at that young age. It's just, yeah.
That's difficult. I mean, how else could have it been done? Basically, I mean, it's tough to say. And then
exactly.
When you went back to work, you had to wear masks and everything as well, or did you? I guess so. For 6 months, 8 months. I think that's the one thing that I'm glad I sort of avoided, because we worked from home. We didn't have to wear masks anymore to work because I'm in my apartment. It's no one's getting sick. That's here.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so jealous. Yeah, I think I had to wear a mask right up until June or July of this year. Like not wearing masks to work, that's a pretty recent thing for me.
Yeah. I think last year I can't remember. Yeah, it was around. Yeah, I guess it was June. That's when the mask mandate went down, because it was Hong Kong was the first one in March, I think, that dropped it for February. And then it sort of rolled out throughout the rest of the country afterwards. So overall, then, like the pandemic, do you think like did it affect your life plans at all, or did it? Now that we're on the other side of it, it seems almost hard to believe that happened. What do you think of it now?
Right?
What have you sort of learned from this experience being in China during the great pandemic?
I definitely think in a way it put my life on pause, and I lost a lot of my social and interpersonal skills because we couldn't really interact with many people. So yeah, I feel like my social skills have been completely decimated. But it did teach me to kind of take a step back and evaluate my life a bit more. I mean, hence why I was able to start Brownie Bites. I was finally able to bring these like thoughts that I've had for years into fruition, which was super cool.
Right. And so, and when did you start Brownie Bites? This is your baking company, your big claim to fame here in Beijing and throughout China. Do you ship throughout China? Actually, I don't know. What are shipping?
I do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I've shipped. I mean, I've shipped almost anywhere. Actually, I think maybe there's only 5 or 6 cities outside of Beijing that have ordered from me, but I can ship anywhere as long as you don't mind the shipping fees. Because I mean, I need the cold packing, so that'll be a little more expensive.
Yeah. How much does it cost to ship like scones and stuff?
Mm, Depending on where you are in China, if you're in Beijing, it'll be like maybe a steady 20 RMB extra, and then outside of Beijing, usually 35 to 50, just depending on how big your order is. And
Right.
yeah.
When did you start your Brownie Bites? What can you remember when you actually started offering your services to other people?
Okay, so I started Brownie Bites a year and a half ago, like late summer, early fall. But I don't think I put a name on it really until spring of this year. I was sitting in my office with my colleagues, and they're like, let us help you make a banner for your passion project. And I was like, okay. And then, yeah, there's finally like a picture to the name.
Okay. And what was the inspiration behind it? Like you said that baking is sort of your stress relief mechanism, but running a business, is this stress relief as well?
I know it sounds weird to say yes to that, but yes, because it allows me to combine my love for baking with my love for helping others and animals. It allows me to put those together and just like do something productive with my time that benefits not only me, but the people that I'm in contact with.
Right. That's right. Because you, a portion of the proceeds you donate to animal shelters, I think, right?
Yeah, I only keep enough money so I can keep buying supplies and not lose. But any of the profit I make, I typically donate to a range of different animal rescue groups around Beijing.
Right. Well, what gave you the inspiration for that to help the animals of Beijing?
My colleague actually, last year before I started selling my baked goods, I would bring them into the office, kind of like what I did when I was in grad school, and I would feed my colleagues. And one of my colleagues, he just like snapped one day, and he's like, "Alyssa, can you please just make other people fat, not just us?" And he knew that I had adopted 2 cats. He's like, "Please just let me get you in touch with somebody that runs an animal rescue group. Can you please just talk to her? Do something, not this." So yeah, that's how it began.
Okay. Are you able to donate like substantial amounts? Like you don't have to give me exact numbers, but in term, like, is there a material difference of you donating to these places with the animals? Like, what happens to the animals? I guess they're housed and they're given or up for adoption and everything.
It depends when I reach out to them, because I go between 4 or 5 different animal rescue groups. So it just depends on what animal they're focusing on. So I'll reach out to them first, and I'll say, like, I'll ask them if they have any specific cases that they're working on, and they'll send me posters. It depends. I mean, they might need help covering vet bills. They might need help paying for like food for the fosters. They might need help paying for like transportation to get the animal to the new forever home. And depending on that, I'll make a little poster and advertise like my baked goods on top of like what the profit's going towards. And yeah.
Right on. Have you noticed, because I think with the double reduction policy, the pandemic, and then the push for the country to have more children, basically couples didn't want to have any more kids, so they had more animals. In your contact with these foster homes with these animal shelters, have you seen an increase of animals available for adoption, or has that gone down over the pandemic?
No, it has gone up astronomically.
Oh, geez.
Well, that's just because I feel like animal rescue and just like general animal like welfare awareness has increased in the last couple of years, especially. So we're seeing more people take initiative to try to help animals in need, and that's why we're seeing more posters.
Mm-hmm. Right. Do a lot of your friends have like pets and everything?
Yes,
Really?
actually, through a lot of the local groups. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I share the posters that I often see, and a couple of them have adopted or fostered an animal because of those posters. So that's really great. It makes me feel nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of dogs around this compound, which I have differences with because they poop all over the place and they leave it. Some of the animals, some of the keepers.
I do not.
Yeah. This is where I go get a cat and have it at home instead.
Oh, don't get me wrong though. If you don't clean their litter box regularly, that's like a whole nother story right there.
I know. I can smell it when they put it outside in the out in the hallway. They don't take it down just yet. It stinks. Nope. This is something like I'm looking at my colleagues and my very small circle of friends. I think maybe 2 or 3 people have animals, have pets. It's not a big thing to have that in the people that I know in Beijing.
It's hard though, because I do think there are a lot of like regulations and restrictions or like fines that you have to pay based on the animal you have. I don't think so much for cats. This mostly applies to dogs.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that definitely like prevents a lot of people from going out and adopting.
Are you looking to adopt any more animals?
I'm scared my boyfriend will hear me if I answer that question. I mean, yes.
More cats or more a dog or a turtle? Actually, some of them I didn't realize they have baby chickens or baby ducks. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
This is something in Canada. I've never seen that before. I'm like, why do you have a duck? Why? What?
Duck. I know. That's new here for me too. But there was an animal shelter I volunteered at last year a couple of times, and yeah, they had ducks. They had a fox, pigs.
Yeah, a pig.
Yeah, there was a fox.
I remember one of my students bought, like, because back in High DN, there used to be the street sellers and they'd have animals, and she bought a pig from one of these street sellers. And I'm like, you know what a pig, like, it gets huge and like it's bacon on 4 feet. But what are you doing with the pig if you live in a dorm?
I don't really think that's thought through, especially with people, that will raise, I don't know, like chickens or ducks in their like 25 square foot apartment.
Yeah.
Woo. I've seen that. Never ends well.
Preparing for the next pandemic. Let's hope there is no next pandemic.
Oh, fingers crossed. That was an experience.
Getting into baking, adopting animals. You don't want to adopt anymore. Well, you do want to adopt, but maybe the boyfriend will say no. You've been in China for 5 years at this point. You're loving it, maybe. I don't know. Do you see yourself being here for another 5 years or possibly longer? Possibly longer?
My boyfriend and we've had this conversation many, many times. Truthfully, could I see myself being here for another 5 years? Yeah, but I could also totally see myself moving, I don't know if back to America, but maybe to another country. We haven't reached a decision yet, more so just going year by year at this point.
Yeah. Life of the expat relationship, isn't it?
Yes.
It's harsh reality is, I think a lot of, because I know some people ask me like, what's it like to date overseas? And it's one of those things that it's hard to talk about, because the reality is that it's not just the cultural difference, but the life difference. My contract is annual, whereas like if I lost my job tomorrow, the local would be able to find a job, no problem. Me, there's a bit of a rigmarole that you have to go through to find another job. Where would you go if you were able to sort of convince the Biff to move? What countries are you looking at?
It's always been a dream of mine to live in Spain. That might be because my undergrad, I got a dual degree in English and Spanish. So like I used to be able to speak it fluently. Don't ask me now. But I could probably pick it back up pretty easily. So Spain, Italy, never left the back of my mind. After I didn't get that internship, it just like planted a seed. It's been growing ever since. So Spain, Italy. How about yourself? If you were to leave China, where do you think you see yourself going next?
Abu Dhabi, possibly.
Wow.
If I could. If I don't know, I mean, if I go back into teaching or university instructing and stuff, I don't think I'd teach kids. That would be maybe in retirement. If I retired, I'd go back to teaching kids, because then I wouldn't take the job very seriously, which is terrible to say. But it'd be more like, it'd be kind of fun just to do, sort of thing, rather than depending on it as an actual professional vocation.
We're literally the complete opposite in that respect, because in order to get my master's degree, I had to teach an undergraduate composition class. And it's like, ooh, would I do that again? I don't think so. Maybe as a hobby when I'm retired. But yeah, I enjoy working with kids. It's harder because I feel like it's a lot more technical in a lot of respects. Because if you teach them this one thing wrong, then they carry that with them for the rest of their educational journey, potentially. But I enjoy it. They're funny.
They didn't learn that word from me. They saw that on TikTok.
That's good. That's good.
Right. Well, I don't know. I kind of get the maybe a university instructing and teaching kids. I would both see those as very good things to do in my retirement. But that's a ways away. So until then, what am I going to do? I'm not sure. So if you did move to Spain or Italy, how hard is it for Chinese people to get visas and the right to work, to leave? I think Italy's not so difficult. Spain shouldn't be difficult. I'm not sure though. Is it tough?
It would be tough, I think, for my partner specifically, just because his field of work, like he's self-employed, so he's his own boss.
Oof.
So being able to register for a visa that would allow him to continue his company or his job would be incredibly difficult. Okay.
But he could work anywhere in the world, basically.
Yes, I know. Lucky.
I'm not sure. You don't have to discuss specifics for your relationship, but for the Chinese people that you know, do they have trouble getting visas or permissions to get out of the country as well? I know that's been the pandemic sort of really shut down a lot of that application. Has it opened up? Are people able to travel? Do you see people traveling or leaving or moving around a lot more than before?
I see many people trying to leave and trying to go out and travel, but I think because there's so many, it's a much longer and more complicated process. Like, for example, my boyfriend wants to apply for a visa. He has to schedule an appointment 4 or 5 months in advance just to go to an interview for a visa to the other country.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot of planning.
So I think it's more open, but yeah, yes.
Mm-hmm. Would Europe be a good place? Because I think with Europe, Chinese nationals, there's the difference. Like, as an American, I don't think you care between the Shenzhen and the European Union. It's like the same to North Americans. But to Chinese, like, there's the Shenzhen visa, and then there's the European Union visa, isn't there? I might be getting this wrong. But the Shenzhen is the 23 countries, and then the European Union is like a larger portion of like the block of European whatever's countries. I'm not sure. It seems to pop up every now and then. If you haven't heard of it, then no problem.
No, I haven't. You're educating me right now. We haven't thought too much into it. We were humoring the idea of perhaps trying to travel to the UK next summer during summer vacation. I could see what the process is like then, but from insight from people I know that are living there, they did say, typically speaking, it's much harder for Chinese nationals to go. I'm not 100% sure why. I'll find out. Yeah.
Which is bizarre because I don't know if you've taken a flight recently. Those planes are full. It's bizarre. I don't. Where are these people going? Don't they have jobs?
Have you traveled at all recently?
Singapore. Yeah, we went to Singapore a couple of beginning of
crazy.
October.
Me too.
Yeah. When did you go?
So we went September.
Okay. Yeah, we went after the break because it was easier and cheaper.
Yeah, the ticket prices during Golden Week, insanity.
Have you been able to travel much throughout China as well? I mean, you have a Chinese partner. Does that take off some of the fun of traveling through the country?
Actually, no, because I've seen more of China than he has.
Oh, really? So where have you gone?
Yeah. I don't remember all of them off the top of my head, but I know for a fact I've been to like 16 or 17 different cities. Okay. Beijing, Chongqing, Xi'an, Shanghai, Harbin, Shenzhen, Macau. I can't think of them all. Yancheng.
Where's Yancheng?
It's a whole list. Anyways, it's near Shanghai, I think.
Okay.
Oh, I'm geographically challenged. I'm butchering this probably completely, but I'm pretty sure it's not too far away from Shanghai, maybe like an hour's train ride.
Right. How do you
in
normally,
total though, 60.
yeah, how do you normally travel around China? Do you go by train or do you plane it?
Yeah.
Try to take an airplane?
Train, because they're so fast.
But
I mean,
you
if we
take
want to
you
go
take
to
the bullets
Shanghai,
from trains. Okay.
yeah, the bullet train. Yeah, to go to Shanghai, I mean, it's what? It's a 3 or 4 hour train ride. It's
Yep.
easy.
It's relatively expensive. I convinced my girlfriend to go take the people's train to Chengdu or to Chongqing, and
That's a.
yeah, she hated me for it. She still hates me for it, but
I mean,
it's an experience. I was like, no, we have to take it because it's a different experience. It's a very visceral, earthy feeling to take the train amongst the people. Very different than taking a bullet train. Very different than taking an airplane for sure. Have you taken any of those really slow trains before?
yeah, I took one to Harbin, so that was maybe like a 10 or 11 hour train ride, but it was an overnight one, so I feel like I planned it right. So I was only up for a couple hours, and then I tried to sleep on my little bunk bed. It was all good.
That's so you've done 16 cities. I mean, that's a decent amount. What have you seen? Like when people back home ask you, what's China like? After 16 cities, you have to have some sort of understanding of what China's like.
But all I can really seem to tell them is it's beyond words, because we have this idea of what China should look like before we actually come here. But then you come here and your mind is completely blown by how nuanced the culture and the geography is. It's just like, I can't summarize that into just like a few short words or like a short 5-minute conversation with you.
Mm-hmm. What's been your favorite place to go so far?
I'll definitely Xi'an. I think because again, foodie. So it's a tie between Xi'an and Shanghai, I think. Definitely food related. The crab xiaolongbao in Shanghai, the rojiamo in Xi'an. Yeah. Yes. How about you?
Xi'an has been a good one. I liked going out to Xinjiang. My first summer here, I took the train from Beijing out and I left West China on bus. Actually, that it became a bus at that point, but the train didn't change into a bus. I had to change onto a bus. But yeah, that was definitely a wild trip. But I haven't done those in a very long time. I should definitely try to backpack a little bit more throughout China. Now that the pandemic's over, it should be a lot easier to move around. But yeah, definitely going through Xinjiang was interesting. Xi'an was nice. It was cool to see the terracotta warriors as well.
Yes, incredibly. I've heard nothing but glowing things about Xinjiang and traveling there, and the food too. Oh my goodness.
I've heard glowing things about Xinjiang too, and I've also seen things, and I go, yeah, those stories, you know. Yeah, no, and I do try to take the slow train as much as possible, not just for cost effectiveness, but in terms of I kind of like meeting the people. And if there's one thing that sort of kept me motivated to learn Chinese is so that I could speak to the farmers and speak to the workers, speak to those people. It's just because they have a very different understanding, not just of like China, but of the world. And they always wonder, why the heck is a white guy on the train? Like, what do you have money? You should fly. That's what you should do.
Oh, but your motivation in doing that makes my heart feel so warm. Oh my goodness. My motivation started there, but then it became much more complicated for me because I found that as I tried to interact with more people, the accents would just mind-bogglingly difficult. And that's why, like, whenever a delivery man tries to call me for my Wi-Fi, I get anxiety off the wazoo. Like, which accent am I going to hear today? Am I going to understand them? It drives me up a wall. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, they also don't always speak proper language too. Like they just kind of slur their words together. They put no real effort into enunciating their words, and they don't care because they have like 7,000 deliveries to make.
That's true. That's
your
very true.
book order is not one of their most important deliveries.
That is so true. Oh my goodness.
In terms of traveling around the country, where else would you want to go? I mean, not that you're leaving China anytime soon, but now that the pandemic's over, it's opened up. What's on the docket for travel?
Within China, I'm hoping this winter to take a nice trip to Hainan. I've never been to Hainan before, and got to get away from the Beijing winter. It's pretty dry and harsh. For Chinese New Year, hoping to go back to America with my boyfriend.
All right.
To, meet the rest of the family, get caught up with everybody. It's been about a year and a half since I've last gone home. I managed to go back last year, like the day they lifted the lockdown. I was like, ticket.
Wow. Okay, good on you.
Yes. So yeah, Hainan and America. And how about yourself? Now that we have more freedom and flexibility with our travel.
Oh, man, I kind of like staying at home, to tell you the truth. I've become such an old, crotchety old man.
So nice.
I like, well, because I got a nice setup here. I really do. I like working from home. I like going for my runs. I like eating the consistency of my foods and stuff like that. I don't know. Not just yet. If I had to go, I think we were talking about going to Harbin to go see the ice and snow festival. Have
Highly
you ever
recommend
been?
it. Just take. Yeah, that's one of the cities I went to. I just recommend taking hand warmers and foot warmers.
And proper clothing. The first time I went to Harbin. I went to Shenyang first, and I literally just got on the train from Beijing, went up to Shenyang, get off at Shenyang. I'm like, it's really cold up here. I don't have enough clothing.
It's so cold.
I had to layer up in Shenyang so I could go to Harbin to complete the trip. And then you get to Dalian and it's nice and warm in Dalian. You're like, this doesn't make sense.
Oh, that's on my list too. I've heard they have really good seafood there, and I love seafood.
I guess it's, you can fly there. It's like an hour flight, I think, or 2 hour flight. It's actually very close.
Yeah, it's not bad. Dalian, and I want to go to Qingdao too.
Why? What's in
like a 3 hour
Qingdao?
train ride. I just heard it's really nice, like coastal, and I mean, of course, Qingdao beer.
Yes. Would you want to live anywhere else in China?
Okay, this might sound kind of sappy, but Shanghai, because that is the place where I decided to pursue the relationship I have with my boyfriend. So it holds a very special place in my heart, not only because it's one of the first cities I traveled to outside of Beijing, but because that's where I feel like my relationship with him really began.
Right on. Yeah. Is he from Shanghai or is he from Beijing?
He's actually from Guangdong, and then he's next to Macau in a city called Zhuhai.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I've heard of it. It's a big,
really
small city.
Yes. Like an hour trip from Shenzhen. You've got Shenzhen, Macau, Hong Kong, Guangzhou. Really nice area.
Have you been down there? That's one area that I haven't really traveled at all throughout.
Oh, I highly recommend, especially if you choose any of the cities I just named. Okay, it depends on your motivations. Again, me with food, I went straight for Guangzhou.
Right.
But Shenzhen is good because it has a nice balance of greenery with the tall buildings, office buildings. I recommend a visit. Maybe not in the middle of summer because that's typhoon season, but perhaps taking the time to go in February or March when it's kind of cold, but not Beijing cold.
Yeah. I did go to Shenzhen for a day because I went down. I like to Hong Kong. I've been to Hong Kong for a couple times, and I always like going to Hong Kong because it's just different. But yeah, I stopped off in Shenzhen.
There's always something to do.
Yes. Yeah. And it's very noisy though. That's my big issue with Hong Kong. It's very noisy.
Oh, see, for me, it was the hills because I'm so out of shape. They high-key killed me.
Have you seen much of the Great Wall or anything? Have you been able to get outside of the big cities and into nature, landscape and stuff?
Yeah, I've been to Mutianyu and the Badaling parts of the Great Wall. Oh gosh, am I saying those wrong?
I'm not correcting you. It's not my place.
HSK, what? How about you?
Taking the train across Beijing, across China, exposed me to a lot of different natural landscapes and stuff like that. It was interesting, but it's a lot of it's the same. It's just, wow, there's a field, and that field's still going. One thing I noticed going Beijing to Xi'an, pollution, like that pollution just did not stop, basically. And it actually got worse going into Xi'an, to tell you the truth.
Yes, I took a train to Xi'an from Beijing as well, and I remember that very vividly. Have you been to the Avatar Mountains?
Where? No, it doesn't sound familiar.
Zhangjiajie.
Zhangjiajie. No, I have not.
Those are the mountains where the Avatar movies were filmed. That's why I call them Avatar Mountains. I don't actually think that's their name.
I don't think so either, but no, I have not been there. The only mountains of any repute that I know are the Fire Mountains in Xinjiang, where they shot Journey to the West, I think, with the Monkey King. I think that's
wow.
It's a big claim to fame. All the Chinese people were striking the Monkey King pose in front of this mountain. So that's the fire. I think it's the Fire Mountains. I think the Huashan, but it's out in Xinjiang. I have no idea where they are. I can't remember. That was a long time ago.
That's next on my bucket list. You're really hyping up Xinjiang. All the more reason to go. I was just about to say, I mean, if you're looking for diversity in terms of geography, Guilin, that's another nice spot to check out. Yangshuo, Guilin.
I think I was like an inch away from it on the map, and I was just like, I'll come back later. And I haven't been back. That's number one on my recommended list for you. Go to Guilin. Okay.
Yes.
Would you?
So
if someone from the United States wanted to come here and travel, where would you recommend that they? Because now that they have these visa-free things, 172 hours, I think. What would your recommended itinerary be?
City and all. I honestly still recommend that people start their journeys in Beijing, just because I feel like that's where the most renowned landmarks, at least in the West, are located. So like you could start with places like the Forbidden City and the Great Wall, and then make your way. If my parents were here, I would take them to obviously Xi'an, Terracotta Warriors, and then from there I would take them to I think Yangshuo, to see the mountains that are on, I forgot which dollar bill they're on in the RMB currency, but I would show them that. How about yourself?
Beijing, because it's just easiest for me. Beijing, Xi'an. If they wanted to go to Shanghai, I think they would probably want to go to Shanghai, but not sure.
Shanghai. The Bund, yeah.
I don't feel the need to go to Shanghai. Unlike you, I don't really have my special connection to Shanghai is getting ripped off by a bunch of tea girls on that famous tourist road. I learned that it was a scam later on. Actually, I knew it was a scam going into it. I just didn't realize how much it was going to cost me at that point.
Oh dear, you got tea scammed.
Yeah, I did proper scammed. Yeah. But how smooth they operated. It was fascinating how just very casual the whole affair was. And red flags all over the place. Really should have been paying attention.
Oh no.
So all this fun that you've been having in China, I mean, you've survived the pandemic, you've started your own business, baking scones and everything for us. Could you ever see yourself going back to the States and maybe doing the same thing? Like, and you went back a year and a half ago. You're going to go back in February, maybe. What is your view of the United States now, having survived the pandemic here in China?
Honestly, I can only really say that the pandemic here in China just made me miss the space that I had become accustomed to in America, family and space. Because, right. I mean, obviously, because there were periods of time when we couldn't leave, I felt kind of claustrophobic and closed in. So I missed having just like a big backyard that I could go into at any point. But I mean, aside from that, life here is good.
Yeah. Would you recommend people come to China? Like if someone asked you, should I move to China for work or for work or school? Would it be on your recommendations list?
I think so. Yes. I think there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of culture to explore here that could really help a person grow both personally and professionally.
Can you give an example? Should they start baking scones as well, or using one of their passion projects?
Honestly, I mean, I guess I could be a personal testament to why I think someone should do that, because I do feel like if I went back to America, I wouldn't have that same opportunity, because I feel like the market there is so much more saturated. So here, I think I had more opportunity to be seen and kind of make a name for myself, so to speak.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. Well, and also the timing of it, in the midst of the pandemic when all the foreigners were fleeing. I mean, you were one of the only ones that were staying here and helping us, the rest of us, cope as well.
Yes, giving the foreigners that stayed a reason to keep going here.
Do you miss the United States at all? Some people, like I was back in Canada this summer, and I kept on pushing back my departure date. And some people are like, "Oh yeah, that's because you miss Canada." I'm like, "That's because the next time I come to Canada, it's either going to be winter or next year. It's going to be a long time. It's not like I'm going to be back next weekend, sort of thing." Do you miss the States at all?
I don't miss the States. I just miss my family who happen to live in the States.
Right.
So I mean, if they weren't living there, I probably wouldn't go back.
Are they all still in Buffalo, or have they spread out?
They're kind of spread about. Yeah. So, I mean, I'll go back to my hometown, and then we'll have a giant, hopefully, like family get together when we do go back in February, which is nice because I'm the oldest of 5.
Oh wow!
So it'd
Congratulations.
Be nice to see. Yeah. Do you have any siblings?
I have 4 siblings. I'm number 4 out of 5.
Oh, you're okay. So I'm number 1 out of 5.
Well, congratulations to your parents, because you don't see family sizes that much that big anymore, do you?
I know. Yeah. When I was talking to my boyfriend about that when we first started dating, he's like, "What?"
Well, what about his aunts and uncles though? Because they all come from 6 and 7 size families, sort of things.
Honestly, his family's really quite small. I mean, he has a couple of cousins, and they get together regularly, but like the families as a whole, they'll have 1, maybe 2 children.
Wow, yeah, it's been like that for a couple decades already.
Yeah,
well, you're the oldest, and you moved away. WTF? Are you allowed to do that as the oldest daughter?
Oh boy, it's a good thing that this isn't like a 3-way conversation with my mom. So
I could only imagine.
She was.
Was she on board with it, or what was that conversation like? Mom, I'm leaving to China.
I think she thought it was a joke, and she kind of humored it, especially with my internship. I don't know if she actually thought I was going to follow through and do this, like move 7,000 miles across like the ocean from them. She tolerates it now, but I mean, when we're on the phone, I'll get comments like, "So when you coming back?" So I don't think she's fully come to terms with it yet. Probably never will.
Does she ask you? So my dad said something like that many years ago. He's like, eventually you're going to have to come back. Does your family still consider you to be sort of traveling and like not settled, even though you've been in China for 5 years? Although the pandemic really screwed things up. It really screwed up the timing of a lot of things.
Oh, it did. It really did. Yeah, they're still very much under that impression where I'll talk to them, they'll be like, "So there's teaching jobs lined up over here, or you could just like come over and start your bakery. So when are you going to do that?" They're still very much under the impression that this is a short-term thing and that it just became a long-term thing because of the pandemic, but that I'll be back soon.
Right. What was your original plan to only be here for like a year or 2 when you came back the second time?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, actually. But not even just my boyfriend, but like the language and the culture. I'm enamored with it. I grew to love it so much. I just, I'm not ready to part ways with that.
Yeah. Would you want to go back to teaching? Were you a teacher in the United States as well, or were you doing something different?
I worked at a pub, actually. I worked in the food industry. Yeah.
So wait, because you worked in the food industry, or you worked in the pub? I mean, that's a very generous sort of description of food industry. Okay.
It was kind of both. It was like a whiskey tavern.
Right.
because to get through grad school, I was working in the restaurant industry to help just like make some extra pocket cash. So I did that for an additional 6 or 7 months before coming to China. And I mean, really teaching here has been the full extent of my professional life.
Right. Okay. Did you take any like professional development, like teaching classes before you started teaching in China, or were they just took you because you were willing to come in? Oh goodness.
They took me because I was willing to come.
Right.
I got a TEFL. Right now I'm looking into a couple of different options to help me become like a much more like actually certified teacher. But yeah,
right.
Initially they accepted me just because I was willing to come here.
Which is, there's something to be said about that. I don't know how much you research the emigration or immigration to United States, like especially Canada. It's like a lot of those people, the reason why they got where they were is just because they were willing to get on the boat and go somewhere where they had no idea what was going to happen. I mean, there's a certain disposition that you need. So does any of your other family, do they travel? Like, have they lived anywhere else? Or are you like the only one who's sort of setting this precedent?
I have a couple of brothers that are in the Marines, so they traveled for work. Sometimes they haven't lived abroad for extensive periods of time, but I mean they'll leave for 2 or 3 months and then come back home.
Right. That's proper. Marines.
So
I guess there's a good old American job right there.
Yeah. I think right now one of my brothers might even be in a submarine in the Red Sea area.
Interesting. Yeah. His vlog must be
yeah, it is interesting. I know, right?
So your mom's used to having her kids sort of take off to different parts of the world. I mean, but your brothers are younger, obviously. By how much younger are they? If they're in the Marines, they still must be in their 20s. So it's kind of like the itinerant lifestyle a little bit.
Yeah, it's like a 3 or 4 year difference. So I think she's used to it now because now it's been about 5 or 6 years of her children just wandering around being little vagabonds.
Yeah. That's good. Did you ever think about going to the Marines or joining the Army? Was that is that in your family, or was it just your brothers decided to do it?
It is in my family, but I personally never considered it. From the age of 18, I just decided that I wanted to be a teacher abroad. And that's been it for me.
Yeah. And you found your...
How about you and your family? Because you said you're the 4th of 5. So how about your siblings?
They are all... Well, one of my older brothers is a real estate guy. Another is an IT guy. Sister is a PhD in statistics. And the younger brother is a sports guy in Vancouver. So, yeah, all... educated, master's degrees in stuff that I think my sister's the only one who actually specializes in what she actually studied, sort of thing. Maybe my younger brother as well, because it's sports medicine. I think that's something along those lines. But mine, like I did ancient history in university, 0 jobs related to that in my hometown, and basically teaching ESL. Teaching English overseas was going to be my ticket out of my hometown. Glad I did it.
That's how I looked at it too, though, honestly. And in our defense, I mean, I had to do like a debate project my last year of undergrad. And I learned that only like 19 or 20% of all college grads go into a field of work relevant to their major. So. And
then there's China, where only 10% don't go into their field, and it's 90% they actually become accountants or scientists or whatever.
Yes. I was told because I was I was teetering on pursuing education here in China, and they told me like, be careful of what you choose, because after you choose it, like there's no going back. You have to get a job in that field.
Okay. What were you thinking of doing?
Yes. Psychology with a focus on counseling for children.
Okay. So I'd imagine there are jobs here in China that pay pretty well with those qualifications.
Yes. I just thought about pursuing it just more so because I like helping people.
Oh, you didn't do the financial calculations?
If not teaching. No, finances, I mean, like when you're looking for a job, I was told you should consider a few factors, and my main factors are like good communication and satisfaction with just like the overall work environment. So yeah,
Yeah,
might be
that's
different
good.
for other people.
Yeah, well, yeah. Uh, I've seen people criticize, and I've seen this criticism quite a bit in the West, that the people who can't get jobs or who are unhappy with their job all took degrees where they didn't do the financial calculations. And it's kind of like, you're from the States, so you probably have first-hand experience of like the whole university sort of university industrial complex, almost, where it's like they're trying to get students to go because it supports the academic system. Whereas in China, like they they do the degrees. The government kind of suggests, hey, you should do this because we need people to do that. They do that at
Yes.
school, and then they have people who are actually qualified to do their job. I don't know. Which, in your view, which system seems to develop better in terms of education, academic pursuit, and maybe overall happiness of what they chose to do?
Ooh, can I choose neither? I feel like in China, academically, they excel by a long shot. Very like tunnel vision is a very negative way to word it, but I mean, they go into a field of study and they just, like I said, they just excel at what they do. They become masters of their craft. And I feel like in America, you might have more options and more freedom once you graduate to go into a field of work, and it might help like with your creative thinking skills, but I feel like academically and like the ability to be qualified enough for certain jobs, mm,
It's
not there.
I've heard this from a lot of people where like the hiring process in the United States and in the West is a lot about I'm going to give you a problem and I want to see how you solve it. Like, are you able to creatively sort of problem solve?
Yes.
Whereas in China, they look at you, or a lot of Asian countries, and I think this has to do with the sort of the verification process that they have to do for visas. They check your qualifications and they go, you want to be a psychologist, but you don't have a psychology degree. So ergo, therefore, you cannot know what you're talking about, even though you'd be willing to find out. Have you seen that at all
Oh, I think you worded that.
in your life overseas?
Yeah, actually, I've seen it firsthand because my boyfriend took a very unconventional approach to his work because he got his degree in engineering, but he came to China and he pursued education. And initially it was kind of weird at first because they're like, why are you doing this? So he kind of had to like make a case for himself to be able to transition from engineering into the education industry.
Right. And did he do it successfully?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
In terms of so you've had Brownie Bites, your company, for a while. What's it been like to run your own business here in China, and what have you learned about it in the last 18 months?
In the last 18 months, I've had to learn a lot about how to advertise, like how advertising is key and like how you do it. Because again, I had no experience with that before. So learning how to use like Canva, for example, and creating posters and like being part of different groups where I can post my posters, like having these connections and access to technology to learn how to advertise. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I lost my train of thought. Could you repeat your question?
Yeah. How has it been to run your own
sorry.
business here? I mean, because you had to learn how to use Canva, which of all things is a kind of a simple program. They made things very easy, but it can be difficult, and sometimes it's slow to load, which is a big issue with the program.
It is a bit slow. You made me feel like such a boomer when you said it was easy, because I was like, oh, it's not easy for me. But overall, I think it's been an incredibly gratifying experience. I mean, I won't lie when I say there have been a lot of nights where I was only running on 2 or 3 hours of sleep the next day because I would have to stay up packaging my my cookies, my baked goods.
Oh my
But
goodness.
I mean, honestly, it's rejuvenating for me though, because this is my passion project and I'm able to incorporate these things that I love and to be able to put them in this one little cookie package that I'm sharing with people around China, it's enough for me to keep going.
Can I ask how your order volumes are?
Depends on the week. So I've had to implement kind of like a cutoff system where I can only take so many orders per week, unfortunately, because I am starting a new job and I'm like learning the reins of how to do my work. So unfortunately, I can't take as many orders as I used to. It depends on the time of year and how busy I am with my job.
Right. How long does it take you to make these things? Because you basically have the scones, the cookies, scones and cookies, which takes up a lot of time. But how long does it take? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It depends. The scones take a little bit longer, especially the pumpkin ones that you were talking about earlier, because you have to freeze them before you bake them. And then like the bake time, I only have like a little toaster oven, so I can't actually bake too much at a time. So I want to say like the vanilla scones that it might take me an hour to make one batch of 20. And then the pumpkin scones, it'll take me an hour to make 10 because, well, they are massive in their defense.
Yeah.
It depends. I wish I had a bigger oven so I could do more, but unfortunately not the case for now.
Right. Is it because of space requirements or just because you're like, it's not that important to, because if you had a bigger oven, then you'd have more orders to fulfill, wouldn't you? Or would you get things done faster?
Both. I could take more orders and do things faster. But it's a matter of space.
Yeah. Do your American family and friends know how much you charge for scones in China?
Yeah, they do, and they're low-key jealous, actually, because I feel like if I were to sell these same things in America, they might be a bit more expensive.
I came across a picture of a half pumpkin pie in Canada for $3 Canadian, which is like what, $2 American. And so the full pie would cost you $6 Canadian, roughly. The pies that I got from Hangzhou were not $6 Canadian. Like $6 Canadian is 30 renminbi. And so to get that here is, but in that defense, because I have a colleague who I've sort of been encouraging to do something like what you're doing here. He wouldn't do scones. He would do something else. But to start doing this, because there is a premium for this type of work. Because in China, have you tried many of the Chinese desserts? Like, what have you tried? And because we talked about the food, but what about the after food?
You name it. I've probably tried it. I give everything a fair shot. It's not the same, but that could be just my American palate speaking. Like when I want dessert, I'm going intentionally for sugar, and I just don't taste it. Yes. How about yourself? How are you feeling about that?
Well, the first 4 years, I think, basically Chinese desserts were garbage. It was actually they weren't garbage. They were, how would you describe it? Variations of sugarless shortbread. I think that's how it would be. And then
that's a good way to word it. It's kind of like a butter cookie, but no sugar. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that was my first impression. Then my other impression was that a lot of Chinese desserts were surprises, because what you thought would be chocolate was actually red bean paste or duck egg, and you're going, or meat floss. And that is when that clash of the peoples, you're going, how does someone think that meat floss is a dessert food? And I don't know, I'd love to have someone on who can explain Chinese cuisine to me, the sort of the ideas behind that. But then I found Daoxiangcun, and I'm sure if you talk to your Chinese friends about it, they would know Daoxiangcun. It's this famous pastry shop in Beijing. There's one in Beijing and one in Suzhou. The one in Beijing is like authentic, and the one in Suzhou is authentic, but not Beijing authentic. And they specialize in, again, variations of shortbread, but the Chinese dianxin, the Chinese desserts. When I found one not far away from my apartment, I was able to go in and just I started picking random desserts. And finally, I found something that actually was what you would call a dessert. In general, like you would not find like a pumpkin scone. You would not find something very sugary. Every time I've given my girlfriend like something I brought back from Canada or the chocolates, it's like every time it's too sweet. It's too sweet. Chinese desserts are not as sweet as Western desserts.
No, goodness, no. I think with my boyfriend, he just accepts his fate as my guinea pig. And I mean, he says they're too sweet, but I'm working him up to it. He's accepting them gradually, slowly. But I 200% agree with that. Actually, the biggest heartbreak I think I ever experienced in Beijing was when Tim Hortons had first opened.
Okay.
And I went there kind of expecting the Tim Hortons that I grew up with, because like I'm close to Canada, so Tim Hortons was a very big part of my life growing up.
Yeah.
Going there and then seeing like their donut selection, and I mean they had like the Tom Hulu donuts, which were super good. The meat floss donuts.
Mm-hmm.
I died. I was like, this is not the Tim's that I know. And it was a very sincere heartbreak. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my story for heartbreak in China.
Well, I agree. I think, and about 2 years ago, because Tim's opened during the pandemic, like as the pandemic started,
Yeah.
Tim's sort of came in. And at the very beginning, they had the chocolate cake donuts, which were fantastic. And then about a year later, they got rid of them. And so that was like I lost respect for Tim's at that point. I was like, no, that's you have to have the Canadian style donuts. That's part of what you guys do. And you're not doing that here. It's disappointing.
It's not the same. Yeah.
What else are you trying to bake? So you do scones. You've done those super sugary cookies. I had them and I was like, I can't eat another box of these just yet. But you're doing pumpkin scones now. What are you? And I see that you tried a carrot cake the other day, yesterday or the other day.
Yeah, but I've never had carrot cake before, so I wasn't sure what to really compare it to. One of my colleagues just mentioned she loved it in passing, and I was like, okay, I'll make it. But yeah, I'm trying to dabble more in cake making. I'm so sorry, my cat is long haired, so like his fur is all over. My nose is hating me for it. But yeah, I've been dabbling more with cakes. So I made carrot cake, and I'm hoping to do like a Mexican hot chocolate cake next with some cayenne pepper.
That sounds good.
Brownies. I mean, I'm Brownie Bites, and I don't sell brownies, so I feel like I should really figure out how to. I know how to make brownies, but figuring out how to package them correctly so they can be handled and sent out via SF without a problem. So trying to figure that out as well.
Now, are you talking about like proper brownies the way that you'd find them in like the United States, the ones that are heart-stoppingly full of chocolate and all other processed stuff that you're not supposed, that the health people say don't eat? Like, good, because like
200%.
Right. Brownie Bites, you don't have brownies. It's very, very good point. You brought that up.
It's my last name. Okay. So in my humble defense, Brown is my last name. But yeah, I make a brownie with like browned butter and espresso. It's really good, but I just don't know how to share it with people yet. Right.
When I saw that you posted this carrot cake, I'm like, so she does have the Starbucks cookbook. That's another Starbucks item. You got pumpkin scones, vanilla, and now you're doing the carrot cake.
Oh, sugar snap. I didn't know they had carrot cake. Again, I've never had it before. I was just like, I'm going to try this.
In
just a
China,
random spur of the moment.
They don't have. So basically, I'm not going to lie. One of the reasons I keep on going to you as my scone lady is because China, the Chinese Starbucks, only does the red bean scone. And it's sweet-ish, but it's not the vanilla bean scones from back in Canada. It's not the pumpkin scone that's only available for 1 month of the year, 2 months of the year. And then you can't get it anymore. So, and they have carrot cake in Canada as well, but not here in China. So I thought you were just kind of trying to, what was it? What's that guy? Charles Schwartz? Schultz? What's the Starbucks owner's name? I can't remember. Anyway, trying to Starbucks your way into the Chinese market. Doesn't matter.
Oh my gosh, no, that's pure coincidence. I actually had no idea. Well, I mean, in America, I would go for the vanilla bean scones, and they inspire me to bake them here. But I mean, the carrot cake, the pumpkin scones, pure coincidence. I promise.
No problem. And I think you also you experimented with Nutella, I think, at some point, or what was that experiment?
I made Nutella cookies.
Okay, so what were those like?
I fully rolled them out. They're delicious. They're fudgy. They're quite nice. A little crunchy on the outside, soft on the inside, with some like roasted hazelnuts on top. Lush.
Yeah.
I love them.
Have you ever? I have to float this because I mean, I do run quite a bit. I try to eat healthy-ish. Have you ever decided to try to use like protein powders or maybe a bit healthier style of not so refined sugar all the time? Have you maybe tried thinking about doing a healthier version of a cookie or a cake?
200%. Yeah, actually, I mean, I have my personal trainer that like lovingly bullies me into this all the time, and I've very much thought about incorporating protein powders into desserts. And even like if you ask me, I can cut the sugar out of a lot of my desserts without changing the flavor profiles, which is super nice.
Right.
But yes, protein powder infused desserts are definitely something I've been working on, especially as someone I'm trying to like work on my mindful eating and weight loss and all of that. So I know like, because when you bake, how are you not going to eat half of the batter? Like if there's batter left in the bowl, tell me right now you don't eat it.
I do. My sister's the same way. She bakes. My sister's the baker in the family. She makes these awesome cakes every time, and it's just like, oh, this is not good.
Game over.
Yeah.
Oh, you're done.
Well, you don't have to go protein powder, because actually I don't use protein powder. It's one of these things that I think that is overly pushed by the health industry and these social media influencers. I try to go au naturel, but whatever. In terms of, but healthier, I mean, there's got to be a way to make, scones that are good and not bad. Or is it even possible? You tell me, you're the baker.
Well, scones, it's tricky though, because with scones, you need butter. You need excess amounts of butter to give them that flaky goodness that you look for in a scone. So could I cut the sugar? Yes, but you are still going to get that diabetically delightful butter like flavor, because you need that to give it the texture that makes it a scone.
Yes.
I can add protein powder though, so like you could eat one and you're full after one.
I don't need the protein powder, but it's the vanilla, it's the icing on top as well. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that's and if you ever made it without the icing, it's like, well, that's unfair. Now I don't feel like I'm eating the same product anymore.
They're pretty good without the icing. I mean, if you ask me, I could put the icing on the side or exclude it altogether. I've had them both ways because I try to sample them as much as I can before I actually roll them out and sell them to other people. And I mean, they're okay without the icing. It's just like not as sweet, but we're going for sweetness here.
Right. Well, I found the cookies that you made, the peanut butter, was it the chocolate chunk ones, the espresso ones? Those were very sweet. And same with the red velvet ones. Those were a bit sweet for me. I mean, by a bit sweet, I mean,
sweet.
I only ate half the box the first day and the other half over 2 days, because I'm like, I shouldn't eat half a box of cookies at one time. This is not how you're supposed to.
I'm the same way. It's okay.
So, okay. So all that being said, you say you have a fitness trainer. What do you do for exercise to counterbalance this butter infused diet that you have?
Okay, so I try to work out 3 or 4 times a week. It's been kind of hard recently just because, I caught pneumonia not too long ago, and it's been a ride. But I'll try to do like a kickboxing cardio type workouts, and then try to go to the gym on top of those an additional 2 times a week. But mostly it's diet. I try to just do mindful eating. Like for breakfast, I'll have protein yogurt. For lunch, I'll have a scoop of rice with a lot of vegetables. And that balances out the days a week where I'm like, give me the cookie dough.
Right.
Yes.
Wow. That's and you lift weights. So what's your current workout split? Like, why do you need a fitness trainer for this?
Oh no, I just need him to gaslight me into keeping my habits up. I don't know how else to word that. Like, he is there to hold me accountable for my actions and to straight up bully me if I don't follow through. Yeah.
Well, it makes sense. It's good. You have, I guess you're paying him to be your reminder. And does he know what you do for like as your stress relief?
Yeah. Yeah, he's actually bought from me before. He's a really big support for
Right.
what I do. And it's really nice actually because I mean, since I started with him, I've still been baking, but I've managed to lose like a good chunk of weight. So I mean, whatever he's doing, it's working. Whatever we're working on, it's working.
That's good. How much do you pay for your fitness trainer, if I can ask?
It depends. You can buy it in chunks.
Okay.
Like you can like 4 to 6 month packages. So depending on how much you buy and when you buy it, because he'll have like specials sometimes if you keep an eye on his moments. That
Right on.
just yeah.
So is he one of these shredded guys who is like massive and he's like he's because a lot of the gym guys in China, especially in Beijing, like they're all just ripped, and there's probably various reasons for that. But is he one of those guys who only wears the form-fitting shirt and he walks around buff all the time?
No. Oh goodness, no. I'm so grateful he's not. No.
Okay.
You can tell he works out, but like he looks like a normal human that
Okay.
works out, but isn't like I can't like biceps on his biceps.
Right. He looks as if he can eat scones and not feel bad about it.
Yes. Yes, that's a good way to word it. He can eat my cookies and my scones and not feel terrible for it. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, in terms of calories in, calories out, I stopped counting that because to me, it doesn't make sense. If you're trying to count your calories that you're taking in to expend at the same time, then you're always sort of chasing it. Whereas if you just ate differently most of the time, you can still have your refined sugar. It's not going to kill you today, and not even in 10 years. It's not going to do.
Yeah. Moderation. I mean, you just like you said, a varied diet. Moderation is key. I'm a hypocrite for saying that because I still eat way too much sugar. It's hard. Like the cookie dough, like I said earlier, it's there. It's staring at me.
Yeah, well, and you do a proper good job of it for sure. I'm not in terms of who orders your cookies. Are you so most of your clients are they Chinese or are they foreigners or who are these? Who buys your stuff?
Most of the people that buy from me are expats, fellow
Okay.
expats.
Have you
Yeah.
had any of the Chinese people try your stuff? Like not just your boyfriend and his family.
I have, and it's been like a 50-50 review. I was at a bazaar a couple of months ago, and a lot of the locals said like, "Oh, this is yummy, but it's too sweet. Maybe next time."
Yeah.
But I've
Right.
also sold to locals, and they're like, "This is the best thing ever. Start a bakery, please." So I guess it really just depends.
Yeah. I wonder if if you did the half sugar option and you made that special made in China, Chinese version, expat edition, you can choose your sugar intake.
I have done that. Yeah, I'm definitely exploring ways that I can better accommodate a more local palate.
Yeah, that's good. Are there any offerings that we can look forward to going forward? I mean, you're trying carrot cake now, and you're going to do what sort of cakes were you thinking of doing?
Okay, actually, I'm not thinking of cakes just yet, but I want to make raisin cookies, oatmeal raisin cookies. I've never had oatmeal raisin cookie before.
What?
So
Really?
that I know.
Never
Really,
carrot cake and never oatmeal raisin cookies? And you're from the States. That's
I know.
fantastic.
But, okay, I grew up though, and my aunt, I would spend the summers with my aunt, and she would make me and my cousins eat raisins as our snacks, and I hated them. I grew to resent them so much, and it just like stuck with me, I guess, until Friday of this last week when my colleague was like, "Please try this cookie," and I did, and I was like, "Wow, it's an oatmeal raisin cookie. I love it." So
Yeah.
I want to recreate that somehow, and then I have a recipe for Mexican hot chocolate cookies with a little touch of cayenne pepper. I'm hoping to roll out soon.
So why cayenne pepper? That seems to be an
know.
odd ingredient to put into a sweet dessert.
Have you ever had Mexican hot chocolate?
No.
Oh, okay. So that's why. They're called Mexican hot chocolate cookies because Mexican hot chocolate is literally just like hot chocolate, but like a little bit spicy. So you get that nice smooth sweetness from the hot chocolate, but then you've got that little zing, the little spice in the aftertaste. It's quite nice. I promise. Maybe I'm not wording it very well, but it's delicious.
Right. Does any of your other family do this? You mentioned briefly that your grandmother used to bake as well. Your aunt force-fed you raisins, and so you've loved them ever since. Not. Does anybody else in your family bake the same way that you do? Have the same sort of inclination?
I have a cousin that bakes, and then I have a couple of aunts that have like baking businesses where they will bake for like weddings.
Oh wow.
From
Okay.
time to time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it is a family thing, a family affair.
That's pretty neat. Do they know what you're doing here in China, that you've taken up this this ability to run your own company here, or your own sort of business?
Yes, courtesy of them, of course, because I mean, a couple of the recipes I do, like they're directly from my grandma's, like her little scribbles, her notebook.
Wow.
So yes, they know everything.
That's pretty neat. So you've taken, I mean, that's now your family has international recipes, because from the homelands to the new lands.
Oh yes. Oh my goodness.
All right. We've been running over for a while here. Thank you very much for taking the time. I appreciate all the time that you spent. Now, I did have one question. You said that you had to get going because of 5 a.m. start tomorrow. What do you do at 5 o'clock in the morning that you have? Like, why that early?
Really, it's just my anxiety talking. So I don't actually start classes until 8:20, 8:30, but I feel this need to just wake up, give myself an hour to like wake up, and then I'll go to work and prepare like supplementary materials and like write down notes on what I'm going to do for the day. It just helps me stay organized, because I know I'm not going to do something like that after work when I'm tired after a long day.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I know.
So when do you go to work then? At 6 o'clock, 6:30?
Between 6 and 6:30 is when I'll usually walk into my classroom.
That's early.
Again.
AM? Really? Why?
I know. Yeah, again, it's my anxiety. I don't know how else to like summarize that. I just, because it's a new job, I feel like I just have this drive to be there and like explore the resources that are available that maybe I didn't know how to use before, so I can properly implement them when I have classes.
Oh wow. Well, you sound like a proper employee. You sound like someone that people want to hire.
Oh, I hope so. That's lovely. Thank you.
That's good. I don't know if you talk to my employer, they'd be like, Steve, oh yeah, let's talk about him. How about you show up 2 hours before your work and it's like, it's work time and where's Steve? Oh, he's probably still running to work or something. Who knows? But all right. So where can people get a hold of you to sample your baking and everything?
Oh goodness, I'm still working on that. Unfortunately, right now it's mostly just word of mouth and you catching me in my moments, or I mean, I'll post in the dessert groups that you've seen. But I unfortunately don't have like I don't have a little red book or like a specific WeChat channel to follow, or a group for that matter yet. I was thinking about making a group, but it's not.
Is it hard to set up one? I imagine it would be pretty easy. I don't know. I don't run my own group either, so I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I heard like it's a lot of interaction, and if you don't have like the time in the day to be checking it frequently, then it's not recommended. So that's why I've kind of held off for now, but I'm interested in starting a group.
Mm-hmm. There's one girl.
I told myself.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I told myself when I started Brownie Bites, I was like, yeah, after I sell to 50 people, maybe I can like do a group. But I mean, you know, hundreds of people later, I still haven't.
There's one girl from those
the
groups, and she runs her own private group just for her specific orders, but you're not chatting all the time. It's more order placement. Like, it's Thursday is order day, put your orders in so I know the cutoff time is this, and then she Friday, Saturday, she just starts contacting customers to make sure that they're getting their orders and when it's appropriate to deliver and stuff like that. So it might not be that difficult. It might not be as demanding on your time, basically. Maybe, hopefully, I don't know.
You planted a seed. Thank you. I will definitely sit on that idea. It's going to grow. So, I mean, if you get an invite in the near future, I mean, just expect it.
Well, I look forward to it. It's good. You're doing good work. And I think anyone else, if they haven't tried your scones or your bakings yet, I think they are missing out. But if they do want to get in touch, I will pass your contact onto them as well. You're available in those different groups. And I think Sweet Cravings is the one. I can't remember. There's a bunch of them, aren't there? Yeah,
I
we
made a couple, but Sweet Cravings is the primary one.
Right. Okay. Sweet Cravings Beijing is the big one that I'm seeing now that's listed.
Yeah.
So yeah, people can join that and they can track you down to order from you. Thank you very much, Alyssa. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. It's so nice to meet you and sit down and chat.
It's been a process to get this Zoom call organized.
Yes.
Wonders of technology.
I appreciate your.
But it worked. Good. I appreciate your patience. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right. Thank you very much. And we'll be talking again. Have a good one.
Have a good one, Steve. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye. All right. And that will do it for episode number 43 with Alyssa Brown. The show notes and contact info for Alyssa are available on my website, stevensersky.com. And of course, you can stream this on all the major platforms. Thanks again for listening. We'll do this again. Have a good one. Bye-bye.